in some ways, considering some of the subject matter there in Jenn's book.
I almost said that. I was like,
yeah, listen, look. We both know, both of us have dirty minds. Yours is probably way dirtier than mine. I'm probably. So she's laughing because she knows it's true. but so we were just talking here. It's like, how did I end up here? It kind of was a combination of a couple things. I'm not gonna go too much into the politics of it, but I get the feeling going forward, like I think we're going to be playing a big yo-yo game with travel restrictions for a while yet to come. And I have my own theories about what's about to happen in Canada in a month or so. So might be crazy, but then I'm just looking at what's going on abroad. So I just feel the pattern will repeat here. And when it does, it's just a question of where you want to be in this time. And it's I think that's a really legitimate question. Like, where do you want to be? Where do you kind of feel you want to do? And about August, there's just a thought of, first was to go back to Calgary, but that didn't seem to work out. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the mountains in Canmore right now.
It's gorgeous. Like, yes, I keep seeing your pictures on social media, and I'm like, I need to go there. It is beautiful.
No, it's listen, you ever find your way out here, let me know. I will. Yeah. No, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful, but it's also just one of those things where this was not quite the plan, but also it feels right at the same time. Well, I'm one of those people that kind of goes by their intuition a lot. It's just one of those things where it's like, if you kind of feel like you're kind of being led somewhere, doing some things, it's just like, it works out. I have a project I can't talk about for another 2 days.
Now I want you to talk about it.
We off the air, I'll happily tell you. On the air, I will not tell you because I'm not allowed to tell you. But it's one of those situations where I have a big mouth and I'm good at it. Apparently, that seems to be one of my gifts, and it's opened some doors. With one of the projects I'm working on, it's actually better for me to be out here. Oddly enough, it works out.
Cool.
It works out oddly that way. On the other hand too, like honestly, I'm trying to set myself up where it's just like, okay, so I got this gig, so I get 1 or 2 more like it, right? I can pretty much be wherever I want. I gotta be honest with you, waking up and looking at like everything I'm showing you is just outside my apartment. I don't know if you really want to leave that once you're here for a while. Do you really want to go somewhere else? Like, I mean,
it's so beautiful where you are.
Yeah, it really is. And it's peaceful and it's quiet, and the rest of the world almost feels like it doesn't matter. And I don't know. That's not considering what's going on. Like I said, we won't go on it too much. Considering what's going on, I don't think that's entirely a bad thing right now.
No, not at all. And yeah, like, it's Canada. The winter is coming. Like, you already have snow where you are.
Yeah, well, it melted a little bit, but yeah, Alberta weather. I remembered what that feels like.
Like, today in Toronto was the coldest day we've had so far, and today, like, it was clear to everybody, like, okay, November 2nd, it's winter. Like, Ish. Today was the day, like, you needed, a warm coat on, and you could tell that it's coming, and flu season comes right in tandem with the cold weather. So there's going to be, I don't want there to be another wave, but it just seems like that's what's going to happen.
Well, like I said, we won't dwell on it too much. The pattern I've seen worldwide is coming to Canada one way or the other. And I think Canada was one of the last countries to start doing what we've been doing with the rest of the world. So we're going to catch up with the rest of the world, I think, by the time December rolls around. Maybe as early as this month, but by December rolls around, we're going to see some of the same things that have been in Singapore, France, England, Israel, right? All those things, like, because we were one of the last countries and they were first. So if you guys want to see where we're going, just look ahead. But that's all of that to say, like, it's one of those things, like, I just couldn't see myself staying in Windsor. I couldn't. My family's there. I love my family a lot, but the thing is, the added, it was weird. So I did some temp work here and there. And I also, this is the other thing I learned about myself while I was out there. I'm not cut out to do that anymore. I'm just not cut out to do. There's that moment in time when you just look at your boss and you cannot see them as your boss, even though, like, you're still a professional, you're still willing to do it. I don't think like an employee anymore. I just don't.
I know what you mean.
When did you cross that line? I imagine it was fairly young, but it was.
No, you know what? I'm still on and off an employee. It just kind of depends on the situation. But even up until a few years ago, like, I was the performing arts director at an elementary school. So I had a boss and or several.
Several bosses are there, and probably all a headache. You probably had to occasionally just.
Actually, no, it was quite a unique situation, and I really enjoyed working with everybody that I worked with. And I had so much fun because I was doing theater with kids, and that's just awesome.
Well, yeah,
it's like, if I'm not acting with professional actors, professional adults in a professional setting, doing theater with kids is like the next best thing.
It's almost the same thing, actually, in some ways. Because, no, I mean, like, one of the biggest challenges as an artist is like that inner desire to be noticed, to be let that inner child, like, nurture. A lot of adults shut that off. I've never understood how you could do that. But then that's because I'm me and I'm a little nuts, I guess. I don't know. But it's just like, these things that are inside you are there for a reason. I mean, shutting them off, that never seemed like the healthy thing to do, but lots of people do it. And I guess they have a point. There's a reason for that, I suppose. But but kids that have none of that pretension. That's the other thing, too, that's fun with kids is they're brutally honest in, like, the best way. They just have no regard for what they're saying, and it's refreshing.
Well, they're just very free.
Yeah.
Like, a kid will tell you if your breath stinks. A kid will tell you, like, they're just so honest about everything, and there's no filter.
It's I there's some of my favorite people in the world to talk to, because you know where you stand with them, right? You don't have to guess. They're just like, I like you, or I think you're poo, or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they'll be, or like, yeah. So I kind of bounce back and forth between, like, having a traditional, like, job where I'm an employee and then getting to do the freelance stuff and the creative stuff that I love. But I think I still have to keep one foot in the other world, just, and especially, like, with the pandemic and stuff.
I see.
The theaters have been closed for so long.
Well, yeah, but no, theaters have been closed for a ridiculous long time. It's actually unfair, but it's also like, so I kind of looked at this as an opportunity, because this has been I've had this in the last few episodes. So this is my crazy thought. I'm either on something or I'm on to something. I will let you decide this. You decide this, okay?
I love that phrase. That should be like a different podcast that you do. I'm
on
something or I'm on to something.
Yeah. It's like, I'm on something or on to something. Either way, it'll be fun. But this was just the big thought, because this is the other end of what I'm seeing here. We are, I think, approaching the end, like the quote, the end of the world as we know it. And I think the real question is, where do we go from here? So here's the big thoughts, right? So we have cryptocurrency. Why do we need a banking system? We have social media. Why do we need mainstream media? Right? A community, we are talking literally thousands of kilometers apart. Like, literally right now. The communication, the ability to reach out and touch people in one sense has never been stronger than it's ever been now. Communication, travel, banking, currency, media, everything but some of the most fundamental basic infrastructure stuff. And even that can be modified slightly too. We don't need the old system anymore. Like we don't, right?
Well, it's funny. You're like so talking to the wrong person, because if I could shut my computer today and never have to open it again, I wouldn't.
No. But seeing as that possibility exists too. You're right. And that's the interesting thing about right now is the system as we knew it going into like the 20th century, 21st century is no longer going to be the same system. Like this is like you say, I'm either on something or onto something here, right? So I'll let you decide this question. But technology has made a lot of things cheap. Case in point, publishing, right? Your book.
Yep.
Right?
Totally.
Right? So, and I think publishing is a good microcosm to the rest of the world, in the sense that nowadays communities, cities, countries, everything like that doesn't quite have the imaginary lines don't have the same weight they once did. So what I think is right now is there's these interesting opportunities to go, we can go off into our own little tangents and corners of the universe and figure out a different way of doing things. I think we're kind of we could be going into an amazing renaissance of ideas, cultures, the way things are going, because the ability to be independent from the systems we know and we have relied upon for the last 100 years or so don't really matter anymore. Okay, you can't have a traditional theater, right? But here's what you could do. You can almost take a step backwards. You could go back into, like, obviously maybe not in the middle of winter, but spring, summer, fall, you could literally create an arena outdoors, right? You could do that with, and again, mask, no mask. I mean, in pandemic, like outside's a very different thing than inside. You could do shows outside in a way that's never been done, never been thought of. Movies. I have a green screen behind me. Oh, what is he up to? Ooh, but that's neither here nor there. Here's the point. You can make movies differently. You can reinvent the wheel because the tools to do this are here. Now we can shut this down. I don't know if I would be able to fully shut this down. I am definitely a product of my generation and the video game generation and all that other wonderful fun stuff. But could I see the death of Facebook, the death of these big established conglomerates? Like, do we need Amazon? No, we really don't. Like what Amazon did, we could do on our own. And this is like, again, like I said, I'm on something or I'm on something, I think. And I think a lot of what's going on, to be perfectly honest with you, is I think this is the big realization that I'm not the only one that's thought this way. Other people have thought this way too. If that's the case, then what really is going on more than even this pandemic, it's about the mind shift of where we can go and how we're going to get there. So instead of doing the whole traditional, like, go back to the way things were, and it's never going to go back to the way things were.
No.
Nor should we do that. But what do we need these systems for going forward? And the biggest thought I've had going on this, it's actually far less than people realize right now. And I think because the pandemic's a big distraction, people aren't really realizing, hey, I don't need this shit no more. I can do my own thing now and kind of just go off into my little merry corner of the universe and do cool shit. And I don't know. That's kind of what I feel is happening right now. It's like that door has opened. I don't know if people see it, but I think that door has opened.
Yeah, I definitely feel like so many of us have like had mind shifts during this pandemic. We've like reevaluated, where I want to spend my time, how I want to spend my life. Life is short, and it just, I don't know, like, and I agree with you. We have technology so accessible to us that makes all of us have agency that we didn't have 10 years ago or 20 years ago, whether we're in the business space, the creative space, entrepreneurial space. You know, we have agency to make our own waves at this point in time. And I feel like during the pandemic, so many different people have taken that opportunity. Like, so many people have started podcasts or started writing something, or, you know, kind of pivoted into a direction that they weren't going in prior.
Yeah. No, I just like it was my big thought. It's like that's what's going on right now. That's
Mm.
the real that's the real secret war. So like, okay, if that's what's really going on, what do I want to do? So what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
do is like again, I have an obnoxiously big mouth. I'm good at it. And so like I figure like, you know, and she's trying not to laugh too hard at this little self-actualization, ladies and gentlemen. She's trying not to laugh. But I'm like, I don't want to go back. Like, for me, I don't have it. I think for me it's I'm going to go on my own and kind of do my own thing. And one of the, and in spite of all this, I mean, I'm going to have ups and downs. Like I had a sponsor on Monday. I was supposed to be paid yesterday. Go basically, I can't pay you this month. And I have a like again, there's the ups and downs and lefts and rights
Mm-hmm.
of the whole freelancing shtick. But at the same time, it's like honestly, I don't see myself like, you know, I don't see myself going back. It's just about finding those niches I'm good at, sticking in those niches, and just keep doing my thing because, you know, I'm too old to do anything else. I got more important things to do. Like, you know, if a certain somebody comes out and hangs out in Canmore, we'll have to come out and hang out in Canmore. That seems like a more important thing to do than hi, I'm Josh. I'll take your coffee at Starbucks. Not that there's anything wrong with Starbucks, but at this point in my life, it's just like, you know what? It's just like there's nothing else I really want to do, if that makes sense. So just like I'm just gonna do what
Yeah,
I want and not
totally
gonna
makes
worry.
sense.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Like, I know, like, from my point of view, I'm getting a lot pickier about what I'm willing to spend my time on, you know, and even if that's turning down a project that doesn't resonate with me, because time is the only thing we can't get back. You can always make more money, you can't make more time, you
That's
know?
right.
So that's one thing that I've realized. And, you know, just because I'm presented with an opportunity doesn't mean I have to say yes. Like, I used to say yes to everything, whether it really resonated with me or not, you know, and my whole book came out of that situation. Like, so I got to LA, somebody's like, you should write a showcase piece for yourself, write yourself a one-woman show. Okay. And I did. And the show did well, and I was able to do a showcase. And then somebody's like, you should turn this into a book. And I was like, okay, you know, and I did. And then somebody's like, you should try stand-up comedy. Okay, you know, but would I have ever done a one-woman show had somebody not suggested it? I would not have. I know for a fact because I produced 2 one-woman shows for friends the year before I did my own. And as I was producing their shows, they were so talented and so brilliant and so creative. As I'm helping these women, I'm telling myself, like, oh, I could never do that. Like, I could never do, like, I'm not that kind of an actor. Like, I can't do those things, you know? And same with writing a book, and same with stand-up comedy. And those all ended up being wins for me that have opened doors for me and led me to some success. But I only listed the ones that did. I didn't list all the ones that didn't go anywhere, and all the time I wasted on other things that people suggested that were just kind of a waste of time.
Why are they waste of time though?
Well, I definitely worked on a few things that were that
Oh,
were, you know,
I'm
as
sure
an
that.
artist, you can always say, like, anything that's part of the creative process is valid. It's not a waste of time as long as you're kind of like flexing those creative muscles and it's all experience. And, you know, even if you write something that doesn't go anywhere, it still makes you a better writer. Sure, we can we can go back and forth about that, for
that wasn't exactly where I was going with that. Let me elaborate for you, because so this is just
sure.
my own career path, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of my biggest successes have come from my most epic failures. Like just things that were considered a waste of time in the moment I did them. You know this as well as I do. There are sometimes you get into a production, a piece, there are people you're working with, and you wonder how they are standing. Sometimes there are some people there are some things that just don't resonate. You're like, I'm here. I promised I'd be here. I'm here. Oh God. And you do it. And after you're done, it's like, why? Like, this is where you're talking. Why did I do this? This doesn't seem like a good idea. Blah blah blah. But sometimes you meet somebody. Sometimes I have found that everything I've done, even though they have been like monumental. Like, I've tried audiobooks. I've tried, like, I'm playing with videos right now because I see a very interesting opportunity there. I'm going to try to see if I can get my foothold up there on that. Because I just see an opportunity there. And it's also skills I learned 10 years ago that I'm like, hey, I can use these skills. Mm-hmm. Even at the time, like, actually probably one of the best examples. So I was taking a magazine course in a place called Snowflake, Arizona, right? And real place, legit.
Wow.
And so I had the challenge / like, oh my God, what the hell did I get myself into thing of trying to edit this footage that's got just on the film for our magazine the year before and try to edit it. It was terrible for a lot of reasons. First off, the computer was I believe in God, because somehow that computer did not die. I'm not sure how it did not die, but it did not die. It wasn't just us that was using it. It was almost like the whole school had files on there. And you're looking at this and you're like, if I breathe the wrong way, this thing will die. Not just the beginning, right? And then I said this story in the first, one of my favorite parts. So he filmed a part of the entrance at the front of the school where there's green curtains. Cool, you can do green screens with that, but the green curtains, behind the green curtains was the parking lot. So at night, just imagine this, watching an interview, and you literally see headlights coming through the green. Like, this is the stuff I had to learn how to deal with. Oh my God, like, it was a total failure. There's nothing I could do with some of this stuff, right? But where it led to is, right this minute, I'm doing something I can't talk about, which requires me to use all these wonderful skills I have accrued from that era, right? That failure has gave me stuff that it's actually helping me succeed now. It's weird how that works sometimes.
Yes, and I can definitely appreciate that. And yes, when I was younger and just eager to get experience and eager, to be part of something, I said yes to so many things. Mm-hmm. And now, it's funny. I did a workshop a couple years ago, and one of the subjects was the power of saying no, and learning that I don't have to say yes to everything that comes my way. And it's funny because even over the pandemic, my new motto in life in general, not just work, is if it's not an F yes, it's a no. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, maybe I'll do that. It's like, no. Anything that I'm going to spend my time doing, whether it's going to a restaurant with a friend, going to a museum, working on a production, it has to be an F yeah. Like, yes, all the way 150%. Or else, no thanks.
No, no is powerful. Like, it's a sense of worth. Like, no is very much a boundary setter, right? Because it's, as a freelancer, like, the first year I tried freelancing out, it was like, in the back of my head, it was like this, oh my God, what if I fuck this up? Like, that was always in the back of my head. Now it's more like, now I'm going to fucking make this work. Like, that was accomplished. But one of the biggest things is learning when to say no. Right. And because you just recognize, like, this is too much work for way too little. Like, recognizing those kind of jobs, recognizing some things just aren't for you, right?
Yeah, and I love how you said it's like, it's about worth,
Yeah.
Because when you know your worth, you have an easier time asserting yourself and saying no to certain things. Like when I was younger and I was less experienced, I said yes to everything because I felt like saying yes and being part of something made me feel worthy, and now I don't need the external validation as much as I used to.
Yeah, it's weird. So like again, big head. I do have a bit of a big head. I totally admit this. For me, I think the big thing I got, like my next book is Alice 1. My book Alice 0 this year got nominated for an award for chapbook for poetry. So it was really cool, right? But then it hit me. You know what it really hit me. I'm not ungrateful for the word. Actually, it just validates something inside me that it really doesn't matter what you produce as long as it's you in some form or fashion. The rest will work itself out.
Yeah.
So it kind of like, weirdly enough, I don't know if I ever do a traditional published book again because of that little epiphany. Because now it's like, what will I get from you? And again, I'm not saying that I would never do it because that would be just suicide. But now I'm coming at it from a very interesting leverage point. I've built my brand. I got kind of my own platform. I make an ass of myself on a regular basis. I don't need any help with that. You like my self-deprecating humor. I could tell you dig it.
Well, because I make an ass out of myself on a regular basis. I feel like we're kindred spirits in that way.
You're way more talented than I am, honestly.
Oh, don't sell yourself short.
No, I'm not. Trust me, I'm not. You've done so many, like, straight up.
You've done so many awesome things. No, don't do that.
No. We all sell ourselves a little short, but I will say this. I've watched you do all kinds of cool things. Like our first conversation, like I'll be straight with you. Like if I had met you somewhere, I probably would have asked for your phone number. It's just because like you're that, like that's because no, you're an incredibly talented, like smart, sharp, beautiful woman, and you've done a lot of cool things. And if anything, you're going to do even cooler things down the road. I have no doubt about that. I know I'm going to do cooler things too. But also I have no problem acknowledging talent where talent is, because to be honest with you, talent is the least interesting thing about a person. It's their belief in themselves that carries them. It is not the talent, it's just the tools they have to do it. Right. But it's the belief that carries them. That's something I've learned. I've learned a lot of lessons in the last few years of lesson. Lesson number one is it starts here, right? It starts here and it starts here. Everything else doesn't really freaking matter. Just do that stuff. It'll work out. 2, you don't need to be the most talented person in the room. There are people way more talented than me that have far more fear than me, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's something I've learned.
Well, I think it was Henry Ford who said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right.
Yeah.
So mindset really is everything. And like, for example, I worked with a brilliant singer when I was in New York. She was part of this theater company. And she was just amazing. Her voice just blew me away. I'm not a singer. And her voice just blew me out of the water. And, at the time I was like struggling artist in New York, and I had an in the music industry. And I said to her, I'm like, I need your demo. Like, I need your demo. I have like one tiny little crack in a door that I can get it in for you. And she was like, I can't afford, to do a demo. Because this was like, back in the day, this was like almost 15 years ago. And we didn't have access to all the technology, like videos were not on our phones. Our phones were not cameras and all that stuff yet. So I remember saying to her, like, I will go to my parents and I will borrow money from my parents to get you a demo done. because that's how much I believe in you. Never got a demo.
No.
Never. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It didn't matter how much I believed in her and how talented I thought she was. She didn't believe in herself enough.
No, and that's just it.
And she's one of the most talented people I've met. So many singers, so many actors, so many people. Until this day, she's like top of my list of like one of the best voices I've ever heard. The way she like, you know, breaks down a song and does it in her own original way. But like you said, like it's like mindset. And if you don't have that, you know, not about being the most talented person in the room. Like if you don't have the mindset, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have that tenacity, doesn't matter how talented you are.
Exactly. Like, so I had the privilege of knowing this guy since he was born. Awesome drummer. I saw him perform in a punk band when he was in college. Dude, if he'd stayed in the band environment, he would have been hit. Whatever band he would have been in would have been the band he heard on the radio. Like they were really, really, like he was really good. And so, but he chose not to pursue those gifts he had. And that's like, again, if it's about want, I totally get it. Like, again, just because you have these gifts, I think there's something that needs to be said that isn't said often enough. If you want to become a doctor, you want to work in a warehouse, you want to be a musician, you want to be something, and you have other gifts for other things, you can still pursue what you want. Pursuing what you want is no shame in that. Quitting because it's not fun is also totally legit. I quit that shit all the time. Right?
Yes. I love that you said that, because so many people are afraid to try because they're afraid to fail or they're afraid to quit. And it's like, well, don't you just want to know? Don't you just want to know if it's something that like resonates with you? I talked to somebody about this a while back on my I Never Thought I Would.
Great show, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I talked to an author, and he had gone to New York to be a tango dancer. You know, was there for like a year or two, and then moved back to home. I think it was Seattle. And there's nothing wrong with going and trying for some big dream and then saying, this isn't for me. Like, this lifestyle isn't for me. And trust me, like you and I live this lifestyle. It is not for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, the freelance lifestyle, the creative lifestyle, it isn't.
No.
And, you know, but why is there so much shame about not making it? You know?
So, my favorite TED Talk of all time is Why You Will Fail to Have a Great Career.
Ooh.
It was done by a speaker in Ontario, actually, a teacher at a university. He talks about why everybody quits or why everybody fails. And he goes through everything. And he goes through absolutely everything. And it's my favorite talk because I have heard variations of all the excuses he mentions in this throughout my life. It is amazing to me. I've learned this about people. I don't care about where you stand in the pecking order of life. It doesn't fucking matter. What does matter to me is that you tried. Exactly. That's it. You showed up. You did your best. Because you know what? There is so much in this life we have no control over. Like, legitimately, I can do everything right and still fail. And that's totally fine. Sometimes it's like, sometimes I make a chocolate chip cookie and it's delicious. And then another time I make a chocolate chip cookie and I nearly kill my dad. But that's another story all the way around, right? Life lessons will be all right. But the thing is, there are circumstances in everything that you can do absolutely everything right. Even, okay, let's say I did absolutely everything right. Follow recipe perfectly. It goes into the oven. For whatever the freaking reason, the cookies still suck. It just doesn't work. Other times, I can screw up sometimes. Sometimes I'll succeed in spite of myself. Like, life is not fair in like the best magical way. But that doesn't matter. What matters is, did I show up? Did I try? Did I let good things happen to me? Did I let bad things happen to me? right? I have no problem getting my ass kicked. It's something that happens all the time, good, bad, and different. Like, it's like one of those things. She's laughing her ass up. It's like, right? Listen, the lesson we can learn from Wile E. Coyote, it's okay to get your ass kicked. The all important thing is you get up, you learn. He didn't learn. That's the only thing about the coyote. He never learned. Never should shot, but he never learned. That all said, the persistence lesson from him is one of the best. That's all I care about. You show up and you do your thing. Most people, they have this tendency to go talk themselves out of things. So I've told this story a couple times on my shows. I remember a particular client that I actually fired. They were doing we wanted to do a crowdfunding campaign, and I wanted certain information to promote because that was going to be my job. I never got that information. And I actually thought about that. Like, why didn't that happen? There were a bunch of reasons for it. Taught me a lot about also saying no. I'm also, yes, I am that asshole. I will fire you, as I will fire my clients if I feel I am that asshole. I really am. But the thing I learned about that was they weren't willing to put the full effort in to succeed. Without me, they still got their thing funded. I'm not going to name it because it really doesn't matter. But the thing is, I know deep inside my head, and if they were honest with me, they know this too. They left money on the table. Because could you just imagine what they would have done if everything had been right and I could have done what I wanted to do in terms of promotion? I might have been able, again, they might have far exceeded their expectations. But that's the magic word, is expectations. I think failure is scary, yes, but success, I think, scares people more because everybody's falling on their ass with the bike, like trying to skate or trying to ride a bike, or you swim, you go underwater. It's like, what the hell am I doing? We all know what failure feels like. There's a certain comfort in that, but a lot of times we will self-sabotage ourselves from whatever possible successes we have. I think we all have our own self-destructive traits. We're all guilty of them. I have them. Lord knows there are things I need to work on, and I know that. That all said, it's what I've learned. What I've learned about observing people and doing this show as long as I have is that people will look for excuses not to confront their expectations, because it's, for a lot of artists, that's what they fear more than anything else.
Fascinating. Yeah,
on something or onto something.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, you're definitely onto something. And yeah, I think it's especially with artists, it's like a self-worth thing. And the hardest person to show up for is yourself. It's easy to show up for other people. Like, I don't know why, but for me, so much easier to show up for other people. Like, I'm so responsible when when it's a client, when it's a friend, a family member. Like, I don't want to let somebody else down. But when it comes to letting myself down, that happens, that happens sometimes. I've gotten a lot better at it as I've gotten older. I think it's something that comes with maturity. But it's amazing how, we really will show up for other people more consistently than we'll show up for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, like it's again, it's partially a self-worth thing, but it's also, you succeed. Year of the Wet becomes this towering bestseller. By the way, you've done very well. It's awesome to see some of the success you have seen. That's really, really cool. But okay. And in the back of your head, though, it's like there's always a little bit of that. How do you top that? Right? There's always a little bit of that, because you always are looking to the next challenge. Because because what's going to make that book even bigger in the long run is another book, right? That's just the business of what, and so it's like there's that imposter syndrome of, do I have another book in me? Do I have like this ability? So to combat this for myself, I made a very simple little rule. I'm not going to worry about trying to top. I'm going to try to worry about having fun.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And I think that kind of ties into what I was saying before. Like, if it's not an F yes, it's a no. Like,
Mhm.
does my body want to do it? Because, a lot of times our body and our mind are at odds. Your mind saying, like, well, I should do this. I should do this. And like physically, you're just like, but I don't want to do this. And yeah, that just really resonates with me.
Well, so like for example, I'm doing Alice, and after that, I'm doing like I have a book I'm actually trying to draw, which is scary. It scares the absolute living crap out of me. But
Yes,
this
we
is
talked about that when you were on my show.
yes, we did right. And then afterwards, I'm doing a badass an inversion of the Knights of the Round in parallel universes. It's going to be super fun. And then after that, I go back to one that's equal to one of my other series. But the thing is, like, all this stuff's fun. Like, I don't care about the New York Times bestseller list. And this is going to sound very counterintuitive, right? Because this is going to sound like, why don't you care about this stuff? I don't care about the New York Times bestseller list. I don't care about the USA Today. I don't. What I care about is I'm going to go out there. I'm going to have fun, and anybody that comes into anything I do is going to have fun too. That's it. That's all I care about. And
Yeah.
now I want to build that as obviously as big as possible, but I don't need to be the guy that tells this profound and wise shit. I'm perfectly okay if you laugh at my unicorn, but like farting out ads at the rainbow style. I'm totally fine with that. It's totally my like that's where I'm at in my life. Like it's you never know what's going to actually hit. So
No, and that's the thing. You can't end game it. The projects you have the most expectations for sometimes fall flat. The ones that you didn't think were going to go anywhere, that you were just kind of goofing off with your friends, are the ones that like go viral, So you can't end game in this business, unfortunately. And I've took myself way too seriously for way too long, and I'm right there with you, Josh. It's got to be fun. Like, it has to be something fun for me to do. It has to be something that like I want to jump into, like, with my whole body and soul and brain, or else it's just not going to work. And I was getting there. Like, I did that workshop about where we talked about like the power of no. I did that workshop like the summer of 2019, and just before the pandemic. So I was kind of, in that mindset like 6 months before. And then with the pandemic and everything kind of shutting down, and you realize like time is fleeting, and how, like, we were all kind of robbed of like the past year and a half, almost 2 years, where so many of us couldn't really move forward. We're just kind of in this holding pattern. And it really made me take stock of like what I want to focus on, the even people,
especially people.
even people
No,
in
no, no,
my life.
no, especially people. I mean, let's get right down to that. Let's get right down to it. Like,
It's
one of the
terrible.
best things. So again, I got to spend time with my family and during the pandemic. It was great for me in one sense. I got to
Hmm.
learn. My dad's my hero. Still is one of my heroes. He always will be one of my heroes. But I'm a very different. In some ways, I'm a very different person than he is. In other ways, I think just like him. Good, bad, or
Hmm.
indifferent. I'll let the world decide that on another day or something. It's
Yeah.
like but I'm a different person, and I was grateful for that. But I also realized, like for me, and the way I'm wired, I reach out to people. I build bridges. I encourage people to follow their dreams. I will shatter your illusions if I think you're full of shit, because that's a big part of who I am. You dig that?
Yeah, you'll call people out, of course. Well,
Yeah,
and sometimes people need it.
yeah. Even if they don't want it, like they need it, and that's. I try to be authentic, and the thing is, for me, I want connection. I want to be, and furthermore, I want to be the. Like I said, I don't know how to put this so delicately. Me and the rules may not see eye to eye in the years to come. I've kind of made that decision as well. But at the same token, it's more like I'm going to be who I am and do what I'm supposed to do in this life. and I'm not really going to sweat the rest anymore. And whether people like it or don't like it, I'm okay with it,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, it's like, it's about what's right for me, nothing else.
Yeah.
And like, I will say this, like, there are things in Ontario I wish I could have done before I left this time, but I also was like, maybe at some point when this crazy is a little bit more, wherever we decide to go, maybe we have an idea what normal looks like again. It would be a very different normal in some ways, and hopefully a less crueler version of the world than that we currently live in. That's actually my secret hope above all else.
Yes.
Um, but beyond all that, beyond all that, um, I just realized, like, in this life, I do not want to be stuck in a place or with people that are thinking very differently than me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm the only one that thinks like me. But I would rather take my chances connecting to people and helping people I know I can help. And that was a great lesson for me. It's like, where I'm different and where I am the same. And that's, like, again, when you're a kid, you don't see it. As an adult, when you go out into the world and you come back, it's like, no, I'm very different in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully
Yeah.
better.
Yes,
Yeah.
hopefully. That's actually been one of the hardest things for me during the pandemic, is just I feel really displaced from an artistic community,
Mhm.
because as an actor, connecting face to face physically with artists, and with other actors on a regular basis was the norm for my entire adult life. And, I'm a little out of my element, like, without having that. And, sure, I still connect with my friends, and I have a writing partner. We read plays together every single week over the phone. There are a couple of Zoom acting classes that I pop in on. Um, oh my God, that's me.
Yes,
I
it
never
is.
even have my ringer on. That's so weird. That
It's okay.
scared
It's
me for
okay.
a
See, we're
second.
having an important conversation right now, and this is why the universe is saying this, right? If
Yeah,
it's
exactly. But sorry, my phone's in the other room. But yeah, so it's been so, like, I've felt like a fish out of water, because I haven't had this regular thing that I've done. Like, obviously there's no theater. I did a film via Zoom where,
yes,
all the actors were in different places, and we did it over Zoom. And I've only done stand-up comedy once since the pandemic began. And yeah, but feeling like I'm completely isolated from my creative community has been really hard.
kind of want to give you a hug right now. So,
Aw, I'll
kind
take
of,
it. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. No, I kind of want to
Yeah,
give you a
because
hug.
also, like, and I feel like, you know I've gotten to connect with you, and I've gotten to connect with some awesome authors, and that's actually like why I started my vlog, so I could connect and kind of foster my own little creative community. But it's so different doing it virtually than doing it in person, and going through, the creative process with collaborators, in a face-to-face setting.
It's ironic because I was able to actually forward my goals. Like, my ultimate goal with this, like, there was two goals in my head, which is, like, so I'm a big fan of. I don't know if you remember this show. It's back when we were like teenagers. It was like the Late Late Show with Tom Snyder. I don't know if you ever saw it or
I
not.
don't think I did. No, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
no, it's okay. I was a night owl, and the only people that tend to be up are crazy people like me, and people that are literally on something, because that's like, so after David Letterman and Jay Leno, they'd have this like, so the cool thing about the Tom Schneider show was he'd have conversations, like real conversations, with some amazing people, like Dave Thomas of Wendy's was a guest of his, Dick Clark. That was an interesting conversation,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah, so you'd see them at 12:30. They would talk about anything. They wouldn't be swearing like we were swearing, but besides that, like, we'd be talking about some of the same things. Um, Dick Clark was very insightful. He actually, one of my favorite things I remember, and this was like 1995, 1996. He said that there hasn't been a real news story since the 80s or 70s, and I thought that was such an interesting insight into a guy that's been in the entertainment industry for decades at that point in time, and like that kind of stuff was talked about on this show. So when we get occasionally deep on my show, that's why I love those deep conversations. On the other hand, I can be silly as fuck. I've made fun of myself no less than 5 times just to see how many times I can make you laugh and smile, just because I like making you laugh and smile, right? But so I'm almost like taking it to the next step right now for me, because the next step is I get a Scooby-Doo style mystery machine and I just travel across the country. I go, hey, you want to travel with me go to some like really cool spot, and we'll just do a crazy interview somewhere, and somehow I get the feeling you'd be like, hell yeah, where would you go? It's like, I don't know, where, right? But it's like, it's just one of those things. Like, that's the next step. But ultimately, being in the studio, interviewing like really cool, amazing people from across the world, is where the show is like, that's in my head where the show is ultimately going to end up. And somehow, some way, now, whether it's my own little studio in the mountains somewhere where I'm like, okay, guys, come to this top secret location, right? Semi-unlimited beer. I'm not made of money, but I got stuff, right? Right. And then just
unlimited moose for sure.
Unlimited moose, right? So it's just like, so for me, it's been, in one sense, it's been great that way. On the other sense, like, yeah, like it has really sucked. That's the other part that was really hard about Windsor. It's hard to connect with people in a very Orwellian concept. You can go to work, but you can't play. It's like, ugh.
Well, I was going to say, creatively, like there isn't really much going on in Windsor, unfortunately.
No, it had some stuff there, but not to the again, and on top of that, it's a pandemic, so it's even worse than what it normally is. So it's like, it's like, what are your goals and dreams? I just want to work here the rest of my life. I'm like, oh, okay, we are different people, right? And that's just it. Like, it's not a knock, because there's nothing wrong with finding a career somewhere.
But you want to be around people who can relate to the types of things that you want to do and the types of goals that you have, and that can help, kind of nurture your creative journey, and you can help them nurture theirs.
Yes, exactly. So I'm not. So it was like, that was the other reason. It's like, I just knew, it's like, yeah, this was great, but now it's time to, crack this so I can just keep doing my own thing, and maybe just be the crazy mountain man that people can come visit and, like, go, and do the show here or wherever, or maybe it's here, or maybe I go back to Calgary for a little bit. I don't know.
Or maybe like you go to Mexico when it gets too cold and you do the show from there.
You'd come visit me in Mexico.
That's my fantasy. Sorry, I was projecting.
No, it's okay. So for me, if I were to live anywhere in the United States, it would be San Diego. Would be I hate LA. It's not my city at all. Just like my LA experience was terrible. So
yeah, LA is like, even the people that live in LA, I think it's a love-hate relationship.
Yep. It's got things you need, so you love it.
Yep.
It has a lot of BS that comes with it, so you hate it.
Yeah. But San Diego's gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
I love San Diego, yeah.
So I get the best of both worlds. So if I want to go to Mexico, I can go to Mexico if I want to, right? And then my San Diego experience was great. It was, I went to San Diego Comic-Con one year, and my bread and breakfast, my hostel, beside me was a comic shop. So I was already in heaven.
Oh, wow.
I was a block from the beach. So I had the best of all worlds. It was like, one of the few regrets I literally have in this life. They offered me free stay another extra day and figure out a way to get back into the Comic-Con. If I could figure out a way, I couldn't do it. I didn't try, though. I was so bent on going back. Looking back, it's the one thing I kind of wish I'd realized. I could have stayed there. And looking back on that, yeah, it would have made my time in the States a lot more pleasant, at least for that last year, that first time, if I had. But no, I still remember like San Diego's great. The other place I would not mind, although I wouldn't want to live on the strip, is Vegas.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm not a Vegas person. Like, I don't love gambling and anything like
No.
that. But I've been like off of the strip in Vegas, and Vegas is actually a really beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful place, and it's very up and coming right now. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
pardon?
yeah, like, sorry, I just was gonna say like it's not the strip. Like I would
No,
not no no
God, no.
I no you but there's just a lot of cool people and there's a lot of neat stuff there, and I think I'd enjoy Vegas. I don't know if I'd enjoy Phoenix twice. I wouldn't mind Phoenix, but it's kind of like a been
Mhm.
there, done that thing.
Okay. I
Yeah.
have family in Phoenix, but I've never been. I've been to Tucson. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's so funny. I just threw out Mexico because it's starting to get cold here, and I'm just like, ooh, wouldn't it be nice to spend the winter somewhere
So where?
warm?
Yeah. No, like
I
no.
was like, maybe I can go for a month and do my podcast and do some writing. It was just a little
Well,
fantasy.
but see, here's the thing. It's like I don't think I have this. Like again, I'm. This is just how I'm wired. Like,
Hmm.
could I figure out a way to do this in my head? Yeah, I think I could. Right? Like the beautiful thing about what I'm trying to do is I could technically do it anywhere.
Hmm.
Right? So it's one of those. Again, it's one of those like again earlier thought on something or onto something. Like the world as we knew it traditionally doesn't exist the same way anymore. So just the
Yeah.
thought like what it's really about, if you really break it down, is what do you want to do and where do you want to be? And if the
Hmm.
answer for you is this hot and wonderful place in Mexico, where I mean, I don't think it's impossible anymore.
No, exactly. I don't. And as much as, I said at the beginning, like if I could shut off my computer and never use it again, I'd be happy. But at the same time, like the technology that we have at our fingertips gives us so much freedom.
Hmm.
And it's incredible freedom of opportunity, freedom of movement. Like so many different things are possible that just weren't 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Like, forget
Hmm.
it. So,
That
yeah.
that yeah, that's I honestly think that's one of the big issues of today is we don't again the idea of what a country or a community is doesn't have to play by the same rules anymore.
Hmm.
So that's an again it's a paradigm I think people have to really think about a little bit more. But like hypothetically speaking, let's say we got 30 people that thought like us. Like, you know what? Let's go find let's create a little city somewhere in Mexico. And we figure out a way to actually find like a little empty space somewhere. We buy it, we claim it. It's our community, right? Like we do that at the very
Hmm.
end after we set everything else up, but we buy it and claim it, go, and that's it. You don't necessarily have the same rules anymore.
Hmm.
I actually think when we get to 2030, this is my again on something or onto something thing. I think we're going to have smaller, more intimate communities. And I think that's where we are going to head. How is it up in the air? Like there's a coin toss. I think people are going to have to think about. But I do think like finding like-minded people is easier than it's ever been.
Yes,
Right,
I
right.
agree.
So then the real question is, where do you want to go with these like-minded people, and what do you want to do? And
Hmm.
if you have people that are willing to take the affirmative action to make this happen, you could theoretically end up anywhere you want.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, totally. Totally. And yeah, I agree with you about the smaller community thing because, we've been doing this experiment on social media and on the internet for the past, almost decade or whatever. We've been doing this experiment about like a global community, and like global impact and all of this stuff. And everybody's so focused on global, but nobody's really concerned about like their neighborhood. And I feel like, with COVID and with us being so kind of isolated, and being forced to communicate online and communicate virtually, I think there's going to be this, like, the pendulum's going to kind of swing the other way, and we're going to really crave like in-person, human, intimate connections with people.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think. Like, legit, the rules have already started to be broken. Like, whether we want to openly admit this or not, the rules are going to, and it's only going to get worse as time goes on, because we're not wired to do what we've been doing for as long as we've been doing it. We're just not.
Yeah.
So I mean, people can think whatever they want to about that, but the truth of the matter is, we are not built this way, and and fighting human nature is silly in that sense. And the other thing too, like, just like beyond that, just on a personal note, you have your own wants, dreams, desires, goals. I have my own wants, dreams, desires. So we're individuals by our very nature. Now, we might have some things in common, but we also have some things that are different too. And the fact of the matter is, it's by our very nature, things are unique. They diversify, they expand, and they grow into a zillion different directions, trying to confine or define a particular box, right? Globalization, I think, is a rich person's wet dream of controlling everything. The reality of the situation, the reality of the situation is, right, the organism's going to do what it damn well pleases. So if that's the case, the smarter way to do this is to let people just do their thing, whatever that thing is, and basically have a system in place to mediate / enforce anything that's agreed upon by whatever parties involved. That's it. Like, that's really all that's needed, and some basic infrastructure. But again, that's where we're going. What's going to end up happening if we keep going the way we're going is people are going to naturally fracture and go into their own little tribes, corners, nooks, and crannies of the universe. That's just how it's going to be. And in those corners, nooks, and crannies, there is no rules. Like, there's going to be legitimately no rules, and that's very much. I half joke on this on Facebook. I said I'd be a pirate in this life. I'm only half joking. I do think we've just come to that time of, this is the way it should be. And this is like when I'm thinking about when people growing up in church communities, this is the way it should be. And this is the expectation everybody's going to play along with publicly, but privately, everybody's just going to do what they damn well please.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's, I think you hit the nail on the head. Everyone's going to do what they do. You're going to do you, I'm going to do me. And the beauty of the world is that everybody is so diverse. And of course, there's going to be overlap because we're all human. And, sure, we might overlap on several different subjects, but there's always going to be a disconnect. Even, you can have two people who are like the bestest of friends who've been, close for 50 years. They're still going to have certain subjects where they're disconnected or where they argue or where they can't see eye to eye. And that's just because we're all individuals and we're all our own mold.
So I had this great luxury. I wrote a little article, and it got rejected in one place. I'm kind of waiting to see where it goes in some other places. I compared 1930s Germany to now, and some of the parallels are very sad, and we won't go into those. Some of them are very interesting. So I ended up having this discussion with somebody from Germany, a couple people from Germany. It was such an interesting conversation because the one person I'm referring to specifically, we didn't agree on a damn thing, but it was such a great like, both of us got a lot from the conversation because I showed them kind of where I was coming from. They showed me where they were coming from. And some of that were like, it made the article better because I saw a different perspective. I don't want people to agree with me. No, we can argue about the color of the sky. I don't give a shit. That could be a wonderful thing, provided we respect each other. Like, that's really that's the important thing. I don't have to agree with you on everything. In fact, I probably won't, and that's fine. All I really care about is like, Jen, can we agree to disagree? Sure. Want a beer? Cool. That's it. Like, that's it. Like that's.
Yeah. And mutual respect, you know what I mean? Like we can all still give each other respect and, you know, have differing opinions. So
Yeah.
it's just about being able to accept that. And also I think, you know, being able to accept that there isn't always a right answer, or there's more than one right answer, you know, where people butt heads so much of the time because they want to be right. And it's like, well, maybe there's more than one right answer on the test.
I watched a podcast, and actually it made me realize something very important. I think one of the biggest things we're all guilty of is falling in love with outcomes. Not so much the our
The
viewpoints,
process or the journey, like
it's the right. The process and the journey is different for everybody. And the thing is, okay, we might disagree on something, but you know what? You might have information that I have never considered. And that informs me on my thing, unless I'm so fixed on this outcome that I can't see anything else. That's when it's wrong. That's
and I love talking to people who don't agree with me, because that's where I'm able to learn. You know, if everybody's just so amicable, like especially in my creative process, I hate yes men. Like, sorry. Did that almost come out your nose?
Okay, I'm good.
You know what I mean? Like, when I hire somebody, I don't want them to say yes or tell me I'm brilliant just because I'm the one paying their check. Like, I will get more out of them as an employee if they push back against me and they kind of, you know, not employee, but as a collaborator, let's put it that way, you know, because theater and film are such collaborative mediums, you know. But yeah, I want people to push back against my ideas, push back against my choices, because then that makes me, it forces me to really think about my choices. And is there a better choice? Is this person pushing me in a better direction? And that's happened to me several times. Like I've been part of writing groups. My first short film that I made, I brought the script into a writing group, and the woman who facilitated it suggested I switch the gender roles and for my film Leash. And because when I wrote it originally, the woman was the model and the muse, and the man was the artist. And the woman was on the leash. And she's like, you know, we just saw this in 50 Shades of Grey. Like, why don't you switch it and make the woman the artist and the man the model / muse who is on the leash? And that irked me so much. And I was like, no, that's not the story I wrote. That's not what I want to do. That's not, you know, it irked me. And then I'm like, you know, driving in LA, I remember like driving up the 405 to go to my teaching job at the elementary school. And I'm just like, I hate this idea. I hate this idea. And like the next day I'm still in the car hating the idea. And I'm like, why do I hate this idea so much? Because it's something I need to explore. And I did. And I ended up switching the gender roles. I did not rewrite a single line of dialogue in the script. I just switched it and had a male in the female role and a female in the male role. And we read it that way first. And then I was like, okay, I guess now this is what my project's going to be. And I did. And that's what I ended up filming. But sometimes like those, you know, that feedback or those people that like push against you and, you know, you're like irritated by their feedback. Sometimes the most irritating feedback is the stuff you need to pay attention to.
So I had a vision. This is the thing. This is why I nearly laughed, like I nearly spat coffee out on my computer. Was I had this vision of you with a yes person, and no matter how I imagined it, I ended the yes person would be under a bus somewhere, right? Just because I just somehow feel like with you in particular, you would just run yes people over so hard. I don't even think you necessarily would mean to. You know what you want, you have a clear vision of what you want, and anybody you're going to respect, either working with, for, or even your boss, better have at least as strong a vision as you do, because if they do not, you will run them over and you will not even look back. And I'm not saying like in like the word like you mean violence or anything like that. It's just you need that. Again, you have to respect the people you're with.
And I'm very convicted, like,
Yeah.
especially when I take on a creative project, whether it's mine or I'm producing for somebody else. I am very convicted, and some people find it a little intimidating. I was brought on to produce a play in the Hollywood Fringe Festival many, many years ago. And the director brought me on. He was a colleague from New York. We were in a theater company, and he was directing a play, and this woman was the playwright. And I remember after the first meeting, he called me and he's like, "You scared the crap out of her. Like, she's afraid of you." And I'm like, "What do you mean she's afraid of me?" Like, to me, like, I just went in there and I just got down to business. And I'm like, "This is what you got to do. This is what you got to change. This doesn't make any sense. La, la, la. You know what I mean? Like, I just kind of went in there to do my job. And it didn't occur to me that, maybe I was coming on a little too forcefully. And that woman now is actually one of my very, very close, dear friends. And, we were able to get back past that first meeting. And I also realized, like, sometimes I do need to tone it down. Some people are a little more sensitive. Some people can't take my intensity.
How to put this ever so I bet you can do that to a point, but there that you again, this is just a big impression I got with you. You need someone, don't necessarily need someone as loud, all right, but you need someone as convicted. Otherwise,
Convicted. Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, you need that. If you don't mean this or not, but you will lose respect for them over time. It's just because it's you need that strength, like iron sharpens iron, and
Yeah.
and the fact of the matter is, whether people realize this or not, you're a very creative person, and you have carried yourself with the vision you have for yourself, so you know what you're made of. So the people around you better damn well have the same thing, or they are going to be. And by the way, I love that confidence about you. It's awesome. So I mean, I'm not like I say that.
Yeah, no, but I've always been intense. Like, I used to be a competitive gymnast, and like I was a tough cookie. And like the best example is literally like in high school gym class, like ball hockey. Like, if I was going for the ball, these poor girls, like, they would just clear out. Like, nobody wanted to, like, and to me, like, because of my athletic training, it never occurred to me, like, "Oh, you're in gym class, like, take it down a notch." For me, I was just like, "Okay, I'm playing to win."
Yeah.
Like, I'm playing to win. Like, I'm gonna go at it 100%.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
Whereas, the other 14-year-old girls in gym class were not necessarily going at the ball with as much gusto as I was.
Well, it's a combination of a couple things, right? It's the confidence. I mean, I know this is hard to believe, but I was considered very arrogant in high school. I mean, can you totally believe that? Absolutely. And looking back, I definitely had some sharp edges that needed to be like polished a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
But it wasn't from a place of arrogance. I was so confident and convicted in what I thought that it never occurred to me to look around and realize that people don't have the same convictions you do. right? That came much older in life. Now, the same token, I'm like you in this one real sense, is that if the people in my life aren't at least aren't as convicted as me in their own way, I'm probably running them over. And I'm not going to feel now. I might be less guilty about it than you are because I am that kind of asshole just a little bit, but it just comes down to the fact that I also just realized that I am who I am. I can tone it down. I can be polite and kind about it. But at the end of the day, I'm here to do something. And if you're not here to do the same thing, now, again, I'm not going to begrudge you doing your own thing. I'm like, you do your thing, I do mine. Cool. I'm never going to do that. But I'm more along the lines of, okay, we're here to do the same thing. And you're dragging your ass. And I can tell that. Yeah, I can tell that. And sometimes it's a confidence thing. Like, that's cool. You try to build that up. But you also, and again, some people work differently. You gotta be patient. But the direction's always forward. Because again, as you so eloquently put out, we only have so much time. We cannot wait forever. Again, doesn't have to be me. And there are people way stronger than me. I'm like, okay, maybe we should just tone it down but again, it's there's parameters, but again, you've had a very clear vision about who you are, and you've had it for a very, very long time. It's carried you very far, right? Now, if anything, as you've gotten older / wiser-ish, something to that effect anyway, you recognize the fact that there's a lot of shit out there that's a distraction. That's it. Some distractions are nice, but by and large, I had this again, the don't fall in love with the outcome thing. I love that so much. I think I'm going to try to keep that way in my head for as long as I live, because it will always give me an open mind, and that's super important. But the other thing I realized too, the other thing about that is, I don't know if I have it in me to be dispassionate about everything. I can be dispassionate about a result, but I can't not be passionate about stuff. But what I can do is like, okay, is this worth my time, passion, energy? Energy is another thing. Although you can get energy back to a point, I don't want to waste my energy on somebody that doesn't want to evolve anymore.
Yeah.
And that's relationships, that's career, that's everything else. I want somebody that's at least halfway as crazy as me. Maybe sometimes where I have to be the adult, because that way, first off, I'm the adult, we're in trouble. But the other thing is, I'm going to need somebody like that. If I, as from a relationship standpoint, but even on a business standpoint, I need people that want to push the envelope or want to try different things at least, because it's the only way I'm going to be stimulated to do a job. It's the only way I'm going to be like, if there's no challenge.
Well, apparently, like, according to psychologists, we are only satisfied, our brain is satisfied from solving like complex problems. So if we're not constantly challenging ourselves, like, we become stagnant, and we become dissatisfied in life, because it's very satisfying to problem solve for the brain. You know what I mean? Even if you think like, I don't care about solving problems, it doesn't need to be a puzzle. It can be like solving a problem for a client, solving a problem in a workspace, solving a problem for your child, for a loved one. It's that kind of problem solving that stimulates us in like a cerebral way that really affects us, like, to our core. And of course, like, if it's not stimulating, if it's not challenging, and if it's not a subject matter that we're passionate about, why bother? Like, what's the point?
Well, art is if you sit there and think about it, it's problem solving. You're doing
Totally.
this. Yeah, it's what it is. It's glorified problem solving. Like I've been drawing as I've gotten, I think, pretty good. I'm getting to the point where
You
I'll call
are. I've been
myself.
seeing your stuff.
Yeah, I'm getting competent. And now I got to play with colors soon so I can actually do more and cool, wacky shit. That's going to be my Christmas present to myself. So I'm going to get myself a color set, and I'm going to completely learn a new language, keep learning the language I'm learning. Pardon me. But here's the thing, right? I dig those problem solving things like project I'm working on. It's a cool challenge. A year from now, we'll see if it's the same challenge.
Exactly.
Right, we'll see if it's the same challenge. But right this minute, it's a cool challenge. It's something different, and it's something I've been craving pretty much before the pandemic. Like I was ready to quit my day job. I knew it. Like I had to go to, when I went to, my original plan again was to be part of the film crew and get myself into movies and just try a freelancing lifestyle a little bit more, right? And do my thing. Pandemic kind of changed everything, but I still was quitting my job because even though it wasn't maybe the quote unquote right time, at the same time I was done. Like I was going to get my ass fired sooner or later, and I wasn't going to care. So and then when you're at that point, it's time to go. And because again, the problems weren't stimulating for me anymore. And so now I'm like, okay, art, it's their challenges, learning how to put simple shapes and make them more complex. Stories, how to write stories and make feel connections, right? And have fun doing it. That's exciting for me. Talking to people like you is always inspiring to me because again, you're awesome and never doubt that. Yeah. So,
and it's always, and for me too, it's inspiring to connect with other creatives who are passionate, who are driven, who are making things happen for themselves. Because that's the other component. It's like you can be passionate about something and do nothing, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around that.
I have an answer. I have an answer to that. I do. Because it's the path of least resistance. The easiest thing in the world is to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that because you wouldn't be who you are. But
no, I wouldn't.
But you'd have no expectations. And again, I don't think you fear expectations at this point.
No, I don't. I stopped endgaming. Like, and that's what I talk about with one of my colleagues, Lee Simon, who is just a fabulous playwright. He is just so prolific, and he's one of those people. Like, I feel like we learned, Tennessee Williams and Arthur Miller in high school. Like the next generation is going to be reading his plays in high school. Like that's how I view his work. And, I can't believe he's not a household name yet. He will be, but I can't believe that he isn't yet. And just knowing him personally and knowing, like how brilliant he is. And he and I have had this conversation. It's like, it's not about the end. It's not about the result. It's about the process. It's about the work. It's about the process. It's about the work. And I've had the privilege of working with him. He directed me in the last show I was in New York. And it's amazing how much more joyful and fulfilling the process can be when you are committed to the process, as opposed to, have this expectation on a result that you have no control over.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's very easy to fall in love with an outcome. It really, really is. The truth of the matter.
Exactly.
Right. The truth is most of the time we have very little control over that. And that's not just in personal careers, that's everything in life. The biggest mistakes we make, short of choosing not to do something we feel inside us to do, is so fall in love with an expectation that we let it lead us to disaster. Whereas if you just do the process, do everything you know how to do, And if it works,
Mm-hmm.
it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you tried. I think that's an amazing thing.
Yeah. And that's also what led me to creating my own projects, because as an actor, you have very little control over your work. You get cast, you audition, you get you go on 100 auditions. You're lucky to get, like 10% of what you go out for.
Mm-hmm.
And, and out of that 10% that you do get, maybe one or two of those projects are things that you're super passionate about, and the other things you're taking because you need the work. And I'm talking about, when you're starting out. I'm not talking about, big famous actors who are, multimillionaires. I'm talking about in every movie, for every 2 stars, there's 100 other actors who aren't the stars. For every TV show, that you have a handful of stars, and then you have day players, and you have extras, and you have all these other people who make the industry run. And I realized, like, submitting for auditions and trying to find an agent and trying to find the right this and trying to get my foot in the door and trying to do this, I was spinning my wheels, wasting a lot of time, wasting a lot of energy on outcomes I had zero control over. And it wasn't until I wrote Year of the Slut. Somebody suggested I write a one-woman show, never thought I would. And it wasn't until I kind of took matters into my own hands and said, okay, well, I can write and I can produce and I can put this up on my own. And that just kind of broke down this wall for me, this imaginary wall. And I've been creating my own projects ever since, whether it's plays, short films, web series. I've written feature films, I've written books. And because I can control the process in terms of, I can wake up every day and decide, yes, I'm going to work on this today. And I don't need anyone to pick me. I pick me. And that was like the biggest game changer in my whole life. And that's when I start. And then, of course, the first Year of the Slut, I did have an expectation. I wanted agents and managers to come because I wanted to legitimately, start getting auditions for TV and commercials and film roles and all of that stuff. So I was disappointed that those things didn't happen. But I also, on the flip side, learned that I can create my own stuff, and I'm actually not terrible at it. Like, I actually kind of was good at it, And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then that gives me a certain amount of leverage, because I have the power within myself to choose to do the work. And that changed my life.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question I've been wanting to ask the whole time, and then we're going to come back and dig into this a little deeper. So, Jenn Lieberman, what resonates with you? Because we've danced around this quite a bit, but I want to hear, how clear is your vision? Because to me, that will tell me everything. The important thing about who you are as a performer, an actor, and even a person. That's it. So what resonates with Jenn Lieberman today?
What resonates? I wrote a feature film that I'm really passionate about making. And that is like, that's something that's kind of at the forefront, in terms of, like, my creative work. Like, sure, I have several other things in the works, but this piece is something that I'm super convicted about. And yeah, it's a little slow going because of the pandemic, but I've definitely taken steps in that direction, and it's in process. Let's just put it that way. The wheels are in motion to get this project off the ground, and I'm very excited about it. But on the flip side, I would love to get cast in a TV show. I would love to get cast in, big studio feature films with actors that I admire and look up to. I don't think they're like mutually exclusive.
No.
I think, creating my own work is one way of one way I get to express myself as a creative and have my voice and stake my claim in my art. But I also think that getting the opportunity and having the privilege to collaborate with other people in a different capacity where I just get to be the performer is so joyful. Like when I got to do that play in New York just before the pandemic, when I was cast as the actor and I just, I didn't have to be in charge of everybody. I didn't have to hire anybody. I didn't have to figure out how to pay everybody. Like we talked about creative problem solving, like those are interesting, satisfying puzzles for me to solve, but not every single day. It's nice to be able to wear that hat for a few months, get my project done, and then somebody else calls me and is like, hey, Jen, you want to come play with us on our movie set for a while? You can be this crazy character. It would be really beautiful for me to bounce between the two.
So so this is what I was going to unpack. Is something you like. Now I'm going to unpack. And I'm going to go back. Now we're going back to that.
All good.
Yeah. This is what you learned. This is my again, my on something or onto something thing.
It's the new name of your podcast.
Yeah, it should totally. But I think for you, this is the thing you've learned. And so going back to something I said earlier about the video editing and getting the skills, discovering these skills you never had before.
Sorry, I'm about to run out of juice. Just got to plug in.
No worries. Plug it in. Yeah, no, here's the thing though. I think you producing your own show, the best thing about it for you in particular, you stop seeking permission.
Exactly.
You aren't looking for validation anymore. You weren't looking for, don't get me wrong. You would love to do certain things. And absolutely. Hey, listen, I don't have, like, for me, I don't know if I need a traditional publisher. And I say that like with all the respect to traditional publishing. But that said, if Tor Books said, hey, we want to make you a Tor superstar, damn right I'd go on that ride. That would be fun, exactly. Right? It would be fun.
But you're not waiting for that ride. You're not waiting for that door to open.
No.
You're still going to do it no matter what.
And that's you. That is
and that's you.
Yeah. Listen, it's totally me. I've been this way since I was in my 20s. It's like, but I realized like I think there's just this realization in your head that, because again, I've won awards. This is the other thing too. I've gotten like recognition.
Mm-hmm.
So that does
accolades.
Yeah, I've gotten some, like nothing like huge, but I've gotten some. And the thing about that is, right, like no I just realized that that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because, okay, first off, I've gotten to make you laugh about half a dozen times, maybe it's a little bit more than that. And I've really enjoyed that. And I'm like, this is my life. Not just the creative stuff when I'm writing, but it's like I get to talk to people like you on a regular basis that are doing incredible things. Yes, I'm doing incredible things, but let me build you up for just a little bit here. Okay. They're doing incredible things that get to that are saying, here I am. Every day I get inspired. That is an amazing gift. Mm-hmm. Now, would I love, again, my show is growing, it's getting bigger, and I'm really happy with that. That all said, I've done this for free for such a long time. And the biggest reason is, okay, I got to talk to you. I've talked to Spider Robinson. I've talked to Kelly Armstrong. I've talked to people just getting started. I talked to a 10-year-old that had 2 books out. I felt so inadequate. Like, I felt so inadequate. It's like, oh my God, that's amazing, right? That is such a blessing for me. And for you, like, I think you can do it. You have that confidence in you that, you know what? I would love to be. Who would you love to work with, acting wise, right now? Like, pick 2 people. If you had the chance, you do it tomorrow. Who would they be?
Oh my God, Kate Blanchett. She'd be like number one.
Okay.
And because she's just so phenomenal. Like,
No,
I
she
think
is. She really is.
And I love Sean Penn. He's one of my favorite actors.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. So that opportunity comes tomorrow. Yeah, you're there. You'll jump, and I'll see you in like a few months. Like, how was that experience? You'd be like, it was amazing, right?
Yes.
Right. But to see that's the kid thing, and then it's like, what's next for you? You know what? I'm going to go back and do something else completely different now. I got that itch scratched, and do something now. Again, that's a nice step, and it might come. One of those things about life is really funny, is in the sense that things come that you never expect. But the important thing, and honestly, just going full circle back to mindset, in the sense is, you have the confidence and expectations that you will succeed at whatever you're doing, no matter what it looks like, how it appears to others. You really don't give a shit anymore.
No, it took me a long time to round that corner, but I really don't anymore. And I feel like, deciding to create my own work and having the kind of resourcefulness and tenacity to see them through to fruition. Because there are a lot of people, I'm sure lots of people who start things and then don't see them through to the end. And, and yes, not every single project you begin warrants being finished. Sometimes they're just an exercise. But the fact that I've been able to consistently see my projects through to the finish line, that's huge for me. That's just huge. The fact that I can actually start something and finish it, stay in process, stay inspired and passionate while I'm doing it, and then have a final product to deliver, that's big. And I say that because there's just so many people who start and who try and just can't get it together to get to the finish line.
So let's unpack that. There's 2 parts to that. We talked about mentioning the mind that creates problems to solve.
Mm-hmm.
Your esteem comes from what you achieve. The fact that you know that the mountain you climb, you don't give a rat's ass what anybody else thinks, because the truth is, you are in the trenches. You are the one that tried to put the boulder up the hill. You're the one that slipped and stumbled. You're the one that learned in the journey, and you succeeded.
But also, like, who are these other people? Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other kind of component to it. It's like not caring what other people think. And it's like, well, who are these other people? Like, some people, I care what they think. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I could be, in a relationship with somebody who thought my work was shit. Like,
no,
respect what I did.
No,
like,
no,
you know what I mean?
That wouldn't work. But what you realize is that it's strangers you don't give a damn about. It's the people you love. That's it. You don't. You're right. That's it. Right. When it comes right down to it, and this is going to sound like incredibly lame, there's only really 2 or 3 things I really care about. The people I truly love are proud of me. It sounds like a really simple thing, but honestly, there's
it's
nothing
not
else.
As easy as it sounds.
No, it's not as easy as it sounds. But also the other thing. But that's the other thing. There's not much else in this life I truly give a shit about, because the rest of the world's going to think about me whatever they choose to think about me, and I can't control that. But here's the thing: all I care about is to those very few people that I really, really, really care about.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to respect everything I do. They don't have to they're proud of the attempt I made. And going back to those, that's who are those people in our lives? That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the only people worth a damn for the most part.
Yeah.
right? Some of those
Yeah.
people, right? To the rest of what I was saying, though, you have a again, you know you can do it. And the esteem comes from achieving difficult things. And again, so going back to something you said about people not getting it done, there's 4 reasons I think why people don't get stuff done. And the one that I will always forgive is that they're not ready. Because that one, I don't know about you, but I've definitely tried to bite things more than I can chew. Like I said, not afraid to get ass kicked. 101. Like sometimes go for that big thing that is bigger than you, right? But you learn a lot from those things too. And by and large, people forgive that one because it's like, you know what? You tried. You weren't ready for this, but at least you tried, right?
Exactly.
Right. But to the rest, it's when you see self-destructive behavior get in the way of success. That's what kills you because it's just like going back. I said, talent's the least important thing. It's that belief thing. And when you see people like going like, oh my God, like, why are you doing this? You don't have to do it. Why? And then, and we all have those self-destructive tendencies and we just got to recognize what they are for ourselves. And like, that's it, right? I've learned that, there are some things, again, I ain't perfect. My shit stinks. There's things I gotta work on. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, what can I do to minimize, if I can't avoid it completely, what can I do to minimize this weakness if I can? But I'm old enough / hopefully wise enough to figure that shit out. Not everybody, again, going through it the first few times, that's hard. Like you don't always know what you're not capable of or what you're vulnerable to.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And it's a journey and there's a lot of like, and I feel like every time you overcome like one hurdle, like I'm talking about like psychological hurdles. It's like every time we overcome one, we find that there's another hurdle
Oh yeah.
behind that other hurdle we just jumped over. And and it's a constant process because we're constantly evolving, we're constantly moving forward. So it's like it doesn't matter how many hurdles you jump over in your life, there's always going to be one more. And and it's our choice if we're going to learn and grow or if we're going to keep tripping ourselves up over them.
So I think this is the last thing we're going to talk about before I seriously, I love talking to you. I really can't wait for the day we do this in person because
I know.
think,
I'm going to have to come ride a moose.
Yes, come ride a moose. I would love. I would take a picture of that in a heartbeat. That does remind me though. I do have something for you when this is over. But that all said, this is what the other thing I've learned too. Being around again, see my family. Like I've seen my dad as an older gentleman. He's in his 60s. He don't give a shit no more. And I say that in both the best and worst ways. Like the thing is, I don't know about you, but as I get older, my patience isn't what it was. I have patience still, but there comes the points like I've heard this bullshit before. This isn't going to go anywhere. Can we just skip that crap? So fast forward that 20 more years. My big fear, right, is that I'm going to get to the point like I'm going to skip all this bullshit because I'm just tired of hearing everything, and I'm going to be like running forward like a barrel because sometimes he does that, and I'm like, no, that's going to be when I get older too. But there's another part as well. Some flaws are going to be permanent. And that's something I actually realized about myself is no matter how far I get along, some things are going to be permanent flaws. Like for example, I am probably always going to like ice cream. I'm probably always going to find a way to cheat.
Such a flaw.
I know, such a huge flaw. But it might be it might be to the point like you might be lactose intolerant later on in your life. I'll be like, yeah, it's okay. I will still eat my ice cream. Screw you guys. I'll take it, right? But again, it's all those. We have these little flaws that we like. Sometimes life will take us around certain lessons over and over again to make sure we get the lesson. And the thing I recognize is there's going to be some things when I get to a certain age, I am not going to worry about changing so much anymore. I don't think that's entirely a bad thing, But I also recognize, because again, I am who I am in part because of those wonderful flaws I have. So fixing all of them is impossible. My biggest fear when I get to like 60 is like, will I stop growing? And I think there's a general, now I will stop growing in some ways. I won't care because I'll be like a little kid all over again. It's like, I've lived this life long enough. I don't give a fuck. And I'm going to love that phase of my life to some degree. But at the same time, I also recognize there's always room for growth. And I don't know if I'm going to have the patience when I get older to learn and keep growing.
I think you will, because you're a curious person. You have a very active mind. I think you get very bored very quickly if you weren't learning and growing. I don't think it's something you need to worry about right now.
No, it's not right now. It's just something I just recognize as I get older. It's just like one of those, like, again, you see, as much as I hate to admit it, we aren't that different from our parents. We just aren't. So there are some things about it. It's like, I am probably going to end up somewhat like them. And then there's like another part of it's like, nope, I'm not going that way. But I'm,
Yeah.
But there are some things. It's like, you know what? Oh my God, I've had that moment. It's like, oh my God, I am my dad. Oh my God, I am my grandmother. Oh my God, I am. And then you need to sit down and have like a drink sometimes afterwards. Like, oh.
Yeah, we can't help it. Certain habits, certain things that were ingrained in us from a young age, we definitely can't help it. But I don't know. I feel like, especially when you work in the creative space and live in the creative space, you can't help but constantly grow and learn because we're always seeking. And when you're constantly seeking, it's very hard to just kind of turn it off.
Fair enough.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the example of the guy you mentioned in Windsor, who's like happy to do his job for the rest of his life and stay in that, city for the rest of his life and doesn't really need to go anywhere or see anything else. You're never going to be that person. No. I'm never going to be that person. So you're not going to have the same issues, of just kind of like quitting one day, just kind of waking up and being like, I'm just going to watch TV for the next 7 years. Like, that's never going to happen to you.
No, that I can't even watch TV now. It's sad. I'm not cool anymore.
Same. I haven't owned a TV my entire adult life. Granted, you can watch anything you want online, but I don't really.
So the only thing I watch regularly, I have to admit, is professional wrestling. And I watch AEW professional wrestling. So that's my regular thing right now. But that's it. Like,
I've been to 2 WrestleManias.
Wow.
Did I tell you that the first time we talked?
No, yeah. You didn't. So you saw both
a WrestleMania at the Sky Dome when I was like a small child, because my brother loved wrestling, like in the Hulk Hogan days.
Yes.
Like back in the day. And I was also at a WrestleMania at Madison Square Gardens in New York.
Oh, wow.
My cousin came from Canada. My little cousin came and stayed with me for like a week or two because he came to New York to see WrestleMania. Yeah.
Wow. Something I've never done. So I used to have a wall of Zen. My wall of Zen had 2 prints from Rob Osborne. One was a game of Pong.
Mm-hmm.
One was Macho Man Randy Savage. Then the third one was Invader Zim by Colette Turner. And the fourth one would just be a randomly different picture. I think that's a pretty good wall of Zen right there.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. So I used to watch from time to time when my brother would have it on.
Yeah, no, I get, from a choreography standpoint, you might appreciate it. I could see it because you were a gymnast, and gymnasts, there's a lot. And I actually just said this in the last podcast. Gymnasts, I don't know who's tougher, the ballerina or the gymnast. They would say, it's tough because both, like, the disciplines, the strength, the balance, the core training is
I
very
know, but they don't use their upper half of their body.
where she use everything.
Like in terms of uneven bars and stuff.
Yeah.
And they might get blisters on their feet, but bloody blisters on your hands on a regular basis. No, and I'm not knocking ballerinas. I know how hard their lives are. I know I have some friends who are professional dancers, and it is insanity what those incredible women and men put their bodies through. I just mean gymnastics. It's different because you're putting the equal amount of stress on your upper body than you are your lower body. Because the uneven bars, that's an event where you're only using your arms and your upper body strength.
Oh yeah, no, like you're carrying your weight. You don't realize this when you're younger, but I realize this when I'm older. Also remind me, never getting put in a headlock by you. It might actually really legit hurt. But no, I bring this up because it like there's a discipline to it that you might appreciate. But for you, this is just the impression I just get because you had such an athletic upbringing and discipline that would never appeal to you the same way because you kind of did it and it probably was more physical with you. Probably. Right? I don't know. It's hard to measure that, but it's just like there's a reason MMA fighters train in your discipline because it helps them with theirs, right? So
yeah. Well, yeah. I definitely know that like the discipline of training as much as I did when I was a gymnast, and also the fact that it was like a solo sport. It's only you. It's all you. Mm-hmm. It's not a team sport, so you're not relying on anybody else. I think that really did help me develop some skills that have helped me on my journey. Let's just put it that way.
It's one of the reasons you're so tough.
Yeah, I am pretty tough. And also, like, I was a gymnast in like, late 80s and the 90s. I started super young. Like, I was in competition by the time I was 5. Because I just had this like natural ability. I just had this natural aptitude. Like literally one day they were teaching a new move on the uneven bars and I was a very precocious little child. I was 6 years old and I was like, no, don't help me. I want to try it myself. Because in my head, I just knew I could do it. And the coaches, these two women looked at each other and kind of scoffed. Like, what do you mean? Like, you've never done, there's no way this kid is going to be able to do that. And they're like, okay, fine, Jennifer, go ahead. And I did it perfectly. And that was the last day I was with the 6-year-olds. And you know what I mean? And then I was taken to the professional girls.
Note to self. Jenn Lieberman is a badass.
Okay. Well, no, it's not even a badass because for me, I didn't think I was doing anything out of the norm. Mm-hmm. Like I just kind of had this strength and this ability that I just kind of had some natural talent. But I definitely, you got to be tough. You got to be tough. So what I was trying to say is, like, I started competition when I was 5, and like this was a different era. This was like 8-year-old girl sprains her ankle, coaches tell her walk it off. 9-year-old girl, cracks her ribs from a fall on the balance beam. You tape it up and you still compete the next week. Like, and I look back on it because I've worked with children that age, when I was working at the elementary school and things like that. And it just kind of horrifies me that, like, I'm like, I was a little, like, at the time, I thought I was like this big, tough badass, even though I was like a little munchkin, I thought I was like, man, I'm like, I'm so strong and I'm so awesome. But it was just funny because I look at children that age now and I'm like horrified, like if they would hurt themselves and they wouldn't be cared for, and it would just be like, oh, walk it off, do your routine again, shake it off, you'll be fine. And I was just like, wow, like the world has evolved so much since then. Because now even, you know, even the coach is like putting me on diets. Like that would not fly today. And it was just so different. It was such a different world. But yeah, you had to be real tough. You had to be real tough to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, we could spend another podcast talking about your gymnast career. I can
I
see
know.
kind of, I know I could sense this. And next time you come, maybe we will talk about that in a little bit more detail. What I did want to do before we're wrapped up, though, is so you say you're working on a feature film, you're getting the wheels kind of in motion there. Do you have another book coming out that we're planning on working on right now?
So yes. So I do. So Year of the What is going to be a trilogy. So it started off with Year of the Slut. That was like how the whole thing began, because Year of the Slut was the play, and then the first novel before I had to retitle it for censorship reasons. So book 2, also under the Year of the What title, is Year of the Bitch, and that is in the works right now. It probably won't be ready for like a year and a half to 2 years. I'm being gentle with myself on this one, because I am itching to get back to some performance work.
That totally makes sense.
I need to like fulfill that kind of need, you know, before I'm ready to launch that book. I need to do some acting.
No, I do understand. There are parts of you've had to kind of, like, whether you agree with it or not, just like, I had to put this aside, but I can't do it for much longer. So I'm gonna go do something, because I will go like crazy. And
yeah, because it's a different part of the creative process. Like, you know, there's different elements to it. And also, like, I'm still, you know, Year of the What book 1 hasn't even been out a whole year yet. And in terms of like getting momentum and catching fire, it's like, you know, I need to give this one a little more attention before I'm ready to start pushing another one.
No, I get it. It's a combination of, you're the bitch. All right. The last question, and then we'll get to the all wonderful plugs of what we're doing here, and that's this. I've noticed this with this is a question about women that I'm clueless on. So please enlighten me up to see if I'm right or wrong about this. I have a hunch, so we're gonna play to your hunch. One of the things I've learned, Year of the Bitch, or women that are playing the role of the bitch, for the most part, are women that I feel there's almost like there's this balance of, when you start, you care so much and you let your heart get broken. So then the next step is you armor yourself up, and I'm going to be this mean, tough, whatever the hell you call it. Is that Year of the Bitch? Is like that year of armor?
No, actually, no, it's not. So Year of the Slut came about because I wanted to deconstruct a word that was used as a weapon against women. Because take women in their teens and their 20s, if somebody wants to verbally attack them or put them down, slut is the go-to word people use. And as women get older, into their 30s, 40s, they become more assertive. They probably take on some positions of power in the workplace where they have to be in charge and take charge, you know, and the whole thing is, you know, if a man does the job, you know, they'll call him aggressive, but if a woman does the job, they'll call her a bitch. So once again, it's another word that's used as a weapon against women. And not necessarily, it's not used because the woman's actually a bitch. It's just used because it's a derogatory term that is an easy dig to cut a woman down. So when we're younger, the more common derogatory term that's used to cut us down is slut. And then as we get, you know, as we get to a different stage of our life, then it's bitch. So that's what I'm doing. I am deconstructing. So it's the same character, and the book is going to be about 8 to 10 years later. And it's gonna have her in a different place in her life, and she's more assertive. She's been, she's a little more seasoned. She has more experience, maybe a little tougher than the character we meet in book one. And she's forced to have to assert herself in ways she's not used to, and is afraid of being seen as a bitch. The first book, she's afraid of being promiscuous because she's afraid of being seen as a slut.
Confidence is big with you.
Well, it's something I had to work on.
Yeah, no, I no, but I'm not saying that as a bad thing. But confidence is big with you. Something that just clicked with me is, yeah, it's something you've worked on, sure, but I just realized like that is okay. I think I figured out something about you. We'll talk about that off the air because I just it's just something that resonated there, and I just like, okay, that makes sense. Honestly, it sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going to do this real quick turn on the chat overlay for just a second here for anyone that's come in later on, because people do come in later on. That's your book right there. I found your book while we were talking a little bit, because it's like, since we are here and this is about your book, and I'm assuming this is still your latest release. If I'm wrong,
yeah, it is, and very exciting. It became an Amazon bestseller in September, so that felt really nice. Not end gaming, but when those little things do come through the pipeline, it always feels warm and fuzzy.
Of course. and they feel even better because you don't expect them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So You're the What is available now, and there's the Amazon link. Is there anywhere else you'd like me to promote and stuff while you're here?
Well, it's available everywhere books are sold. So if you have an independent bookshop that you like to support, order it through them. Support indie bookshops, brick and mortar stores. It's also available on Kindle Unlimited and on Audible. So there's also an audiobook available if you prefer to listen when you're at the gym or when you're driving, if you have a long drive coming up. So whatever you prefer.
Whatever indeed you prefer. Well, yeah. And how you want people want to find you, where can they go?
Okay, so across all social media, my handle is I am Jenn Lieberman. So that's pretty easy. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I am Jenn Lieberman. Year of the What also can be found on the website, yearofthewhat.com. You can sign up for my mailing list that way. Through that website, in case you want to stay tuned with the other things that I'm doing in terms of like performance work. And then also jenniferliebermanactor.com. Any of those work. And they all kind of lead to each other. Like any of my websites will lead you to the other websites. So
yeah, it's fair, but I mean, we're at the promo part, so I might as well get them all up there just so everybody can find you, right?
Yeah, right? Awesome.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the incredible Jenn Lieberman. I always love chatting with her. And like I said, I went out of my way to make her laugh a few times, and I did succeed quite a bit there.
Yes, you did, Josh.
Yeah. For those people watching, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you want to support this podcast, do it a number of different ways. I'm on Twitch. Click the follow button and subscribe button. I'm near my first 100 followers here, which is really cool. I have my YouTube channel, which is Joshua Pantellaresco. Hit the like, subscribe, enable notifications there. And so that's probably where the slowest one for me to update, but I always put episodes up there too from the past. And there's my audio, which you can find anywhere else. My book, Alice 1, comes out December 1st. Alice 0 is nominated for the Elgin Award for Poetry. So for everybody watching, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I will see you guys Thursday with my next guest. So take care of yourselves. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, or don't get caught. Take care. Thanks,
Josh.